First of all, at the very same time, we had a rebirth of our so much needed Uganda Airline. Uganda became a signatory to the African Union single aviation market for Africa. No, whether you're in Premiership or you're playing AFCON. Simply put, that Africa has been dependent largely to the developed world airlines, that sometimes you have to go from DRC to Europe before you go to another big African country called Nigeria, that we had no interconnection and connectivity. And in logistics, in the procurement, logistics and supply chain, we talk about the multimodal transport, whether it is by rail connection, whether it is water transport, because in freight, we're even talking of shipping. Our money, our indulgence in this business, even in shipping, we are not earning in shipping, even on vessels on water. We are also not earning much, even in the air transport. So for Africa to trade in the African continent free trade area, it was intentional that the African Union put in place a framework. At the very same time, I think Kagame was the chairman at that time of AU when this was signed. No wonder he may be taking advantage. When you hear Rwanda Air is having a partnership with, say, the Qatar Airways, and that also settles another case. Do you need an airline? We need it. Government can own an airline. The detail of management is another thing. Can you outsource management? Can you own it and partner with others? And I will give two examples. The Ethiopian airline, we are all very proud of in Africa. Ethiopia was not colonized. It celebrated 80 years last year. And Addis Ababa was a headquarter for all African colonies until independence. And thereafter, the meetings, the conferences, so it becomes a hub, because even the UN Economic Commission, all these bodies sit in Addis Ababa. So because of that, longevity matters. Ethiopia is the 5th leading airline in the world. And it's profitable. It has been there for long. And no wonder it's doing that. I can give you another example. Kenya in the region is among the struggling. But Kenya was East African Airways. We remained with a small part, thanks to Amin, the coffee boom, which gave us some more planes. The little which was bequeathed to us from the East African community sharing. Kenya took the big share. And that, and
Uganda did not get anything
exactly.
from East African Airways, except the airport.
The airport, the handling facilities, and a few things, and the training school in Soroti. But what am I saying here is that to start comparing yourself with Kenya Airways, you would have completely deleted in your memory the history of Kenya Airways. So Kenya Airways also, because of the problems we had at that time, the Amin era and our own challenges here, again Kenya became the meetings, conferences, and facility. Now, but even then, Kenya has had a partnership with KLM for a very long period, which kept them going at one time. Because in this management of aviation, and by the way, talking about air cargo, it's also wrong for us to start discussing Uganda Airline as if it's a complete, what it requires to stock of an airline. Because don't just talk about passenger flights international. The air cargo is a very important component in aviation. The domestic flights is a very important component in, The cargo handling and the handling facilities is very important. You can actually get more money in handling services if your airport is busy than even a plane can make. Yes, the case for a national flag carrier, the case for marketing our tourism exports is very important, but it should not just be sentimental. It must make a business case in the world where we are today. Because we are in the world where there are success stories of the Emiratis, the Qataris. So when you are there with African neighbors failing to make a case for the African integration, which is the case for the single aviation market, is integration, is consolidation, is the bigger market. How do we become intentional that within ours, and we have just come from COVID, a very big lesson, where in the global supply chains we were left out. So what do you learn coming from COVID? That you could actually be abandoned, that you are dependent on other part of the world in terms of, because why, whereas I talked of multimodal transport, whereas air transport is the most expensive, it is the fastest and it conquered time and distance. So that's why when we are talking about competitiveness, air transport becomes very important.
Thank you.
So for me, I would want us to discuss what it takes Uganda to delve into this African continent free trade area in this, because you're going to have, we are talking of, for example, when they talk of liberalization, for example, here, they're not saying that let foreign countries come. We are saying reduce, cede some sovereignty. If EU has airspace free for all flights, and Uganda you put costs, that's called a non-tariff barrier. For you, that Uganda Airlines was stopped at some place in Kenya because they had not paid some costs.
Okay.
Those are not friendly to the industry.
Honorable, let me come back to you on that one.
We are talking of a common visa. There are really serious issues we should look at in terms what makes an airline. It's not just having a planes are called Uganda Airlines, not just having routes and just marketing. You need infrastructure. Okay. You need harmonization over some of these regulations for you to talk about training.
Thank you. Honorable, let me come back to you.